Hey folks, welcome back. This is Joel and I'm starting to record a few videos relating to data center using Aruba's CX platforms. Um, in this video, we'll start with setting up static VXLAN, right? And I think by now you might be very aware what VXLAN is and why do we use it. If you are not, you can go back to the channel and have a look at the detailed playlist on VXLAN. In this particular video, the goal is, we've got a couple of leaf switches here, right? So let me grab my pen here. So you've got a couple of leaf switches with these as the loopback address. And you can see this is a complete routed. So you can see this is a the 100 network and the 200 networks, right? So you have a router in the center. So it's a complete routed segment, right? This whole segment is completely routed. Our goal is to set up VXLAN between these switches, right? So that you can then you can see these two hosts, they are in VLAN 10. Similarly, these two hosts are in VLAN 20, right? So our goal is to kind of tunnel or basically extend this L2 overlay over this routed segment, right? Similarly on the other side as well. The goal is to extend, that's the one of the main, so you can see this is the routed segment, right? So we want to extend the two VLANs over the routed network, using VXLAN. That's what we are trying to do. And since we are not using any sort of control plane protocol like BGP VPN, we will be setting up a static VXLAN tunnel. That is, we'll be going on to the leaf 1 switch, and we will explicitly we'll go on to the leaf 1 switch and we'll point a tunnel towards leaf 2. Similarly, on the leaf 2 we'll point a tunnel towards leaf 1. That's what we'll be creating. All right, so let's jump onto the CLI. I've already configured the host, which is the 4 hosts which you have. I already put the IP addresses on them. All I need to do is configure the leaf 1 and leaf 2, right? I've also configured the router in the center, which is basically IP addresses on each of them and a couple of static routes. But basically what we'll need to configure is leaf 1 and leaf 2, and we'll explore if the connectivity works. Okay, so let's come down to our leaf 1 here, right? So the leaf 1 switch, this is a factory reset switch. There is no configs on it, so I'm getting inside it, right? So the first time, if this is the first time you're using Aruba CX in EVNG, it will ask you for a username password. You just need to put admin as the username. The password has to be empty, right? And if you want, you can set up a new password. I'm just going to hit enter so that there is no password, right? Let's start configuring. Let's start with the host name being, let's go with leaf 1 on this one. Okay, let's create a couple of VLANs, which is going to be VLAN 10 and 20, because those are the two VLANs we're exploring. Now let's configure the interfaces, right? So on the interfaces, we've got the 1/1/2, and we have 1/1/3, and then 1/1/1. So the 3 interfaces. First, let's do the 1/1/1 so that we can put the IP address. Let's do no shut. Let's put the IP address. It's going to be 100.1.1/24, right? So that's the IP address on the router interface, or the interface towards the router. So we are done with that. Let's now configure interface 1/1/2, and let's put this guy in. Let's do no shut on it. Let's do no routing on it, because it's a L2 port, and we will also put this guy in VLAN 10. Perfect. Let's do the same thing in 1/1/3. My bad. So the other interface is gonna be no shut, no routing. Let's put this guy in VLAN access 20. Perfect, right? So we have done all the interfaces. So we're done with interface 1/1, 1/2, 1/3. Let's put a loopback interface, right? So let's do interface loopback 0 maybe, right? Let's do IP address 10.10.10. I think 1. So let's use that as the loopback. Yeah, so /24 should be fine. So we are done with the loopback. Let's also put a static route, which is IP route. So I will have to put a static route towards the loopback of the other leaf, which is the 20.20. This thing, right? So let's go with 20.20.20.1, right? /32, and then gonna be putting 100.1.1.2. That's the static route, because 1.1.2 is the IP address of the router over here. Perfect. So we're done with all the routing. Now the last part remaining is the VXLAN config. So I'm going to do interface VXLAN 1. So this is how you do the static VXLAN configs, right? So once you get inside the VXLAN 1, you need to provide what is the source IP which I'll be using for the VXLAN tunnel, right? So I'm going to say source IP is going to be the loopback 0, which is 10.10.1. Perfect. Let's do no shut. And now we have to create the VNIs, right? So remember, in VXLAN you have L2 VNI, L3 VNI. Since we are doing static VXLAN, the only thing which you can do here is L2 VNI. You can only extend L2 segments over over a L3 routed underlay network. So we are extending only the VLANs 10 and 20. You'll not be able to route between the VLANs for now, right? For that, you remember we have to do symmetric IRP and all of that. We have done that in BGP VPN. For now, you'll be just able to ping between the host, this host and this host. That is, you'll be able to ping between the VLAN 10 host and VLAN 20 host, but you'll not be able to ping across, right? You'll not be able to ping from this guy to this guy. So you'll not be able to do that, or you'll not be able to route, right? You'll be able to bridge. All right, so we are inside VXLAN 1, and now let's create, let me just clear the screen a little bit, right? So now let's go and configure the VNIs. All right, so for the VNIs, we will just go with let's say VNI 10. It's my screen. Okay, here. So VNI 10, right? So let's do VNI 10, and let's so whenever you create a VNI, you need to tag it with the VLAN, right? So what VLAN traffic is going to be mapped with VNI 10? It's going to be VLAN 10. Okay, because remember we have put the interface 1/1/2 in VLAN 10. So I'm tagging all the traffic in VLAN 10 will be using VNI, or will be part of VNI 10, right? We also need to explicitly statically define the VTEP, right? The peer VTEP, because we don't have VTEP discovery happening here, right? You don't have a control plane protocol. So you'll have to explicitly say that, hey, look, leaf 2 is at this particular IP. And that's what I did just now. Cool. Similarly, for the second VNI, which is going to be VLAN 20, and the VTEP peer IP is going to be the same. Sweet. All right, so that's done. So I think we are all good from the config perspective. Let's gonna save the config. Quickly jump onto the second box, which is the leaf 2. Repeat the same thing. That is, you gotta put username as admin. Right, this is good. So let's start with the host name, and it's gonna be leaf 2. And let's create the VLANs like we did earlier, 10 and 20. Let's do interfaces, which is 1/1/1, no shut. IP address of it will be 200.1.1.1/24, right? That's the IP address. That's the segment you see here. That's the segment over here. Looks good. Now let's configure interface 1/1/2, right? No shut, no routing, and VLAN access 10. Right, so that's the VLAN for interface 1/1/2. Same thing for, okay, the next interface is 1/3. Let's do no shut, no routing, and let's put this guy in VLAN access 20. Cool. Now let's create the loopback interface, right? So I'm gonna say interface loopback 0. IP address, the IP address here is gonna be 20.20.20.1/24. Cool. And let's also create the static route. So I'm gonna say, in order to reach the loopback of what? Of the leaf 1, which is 10.10.10.1/32, you will have to go through 200. It's gonna be this guy, right? 200.1.1.2, right? That's good. Cool. So I think that looks good. Now the only thing which is remaining is you need to configure the VXLAN, right? Let me clear the screen. Right, so I'm gonna say interface VXLAN, VXLAN 1, is it? Source IP is 20.20.20.1. Okay, no shut, and let's do VNI 10. VLAN 10, right? Because the same VLAN 10 has to be mapped to VNI 10. The VTEP peer IP, that this time it is going to be 10.10.1. Perfect. Let's do the same thing for VNI 20. Let's get maps to VLAN 20, and VTEP peer IP is this guy. Cool. All of that is done. Now I think we should ideally be good, right? I think the VXLAN should be working. So what I'll do now is first let's check if we are able to ping the loopback IP of let's probably do that from leaf 1. Let's see if we can ping this guy, right? So let's do ping. Sorry, I think you don't have to do here. You can directly ping 20.20.1, source it from probably 10.10.10.1. There you go, the ping is working, which means we have connectivity. Now let's probably so we have everything set up, right? So we've got the VXLAN configs in. Now the important thing is we need to verify if we are able to connect between these two hosts and these two hosts, right? So let me start a packet capture on this interface so that we can actually see what's happening, right? So I'm going to open that. So the packet capture is on this interface, so everything that flows on this segment you'll be able to see, right? So I'm going to pull that here. That's the packet capture. Let's now try to do some pings. All right, so I'm gonna come down to the host 1, which is here, right? So let's see. So let's first look at the IP address, show IP interface brief. You can see it is 10.00.55. Let's try to check the IP on this guy, show IP interface brief. There you go. So that's the IP 10.00.19, right? 10.00.55, 10.00.19. So let's try to ping this guy, right, and see if it works. There you go, it worked, right? And you can see the ping is showing up here. Let's investigate how this packet looks, right? Let's probably click on one of the guys. So this is the ICMP request, right? Let me just, yeah, this is ICMP request. And if I just look at the bottom, you can clearly see you've got the ICMP payload. You've got the you got the inner IP header, right? This is what we did with the ping, right? The source IP is host 1, the destination IP is host 2, right? And you can clearly see it is getting encapsulated in VXLAN over here. This is a VXLAN header. You can see the VXLAN identifier of VNI is 10 because it is L2 VNI. And you also, obviously VXLAN uses a UDP header, and then you have the outer IP header, right? The outer IP headers are nothing but the loopback IPs of the VTEPs. And then you also have the, obviously you also need a L2 header outside. So that is what you basically see over here. Traffic is getting encapsulated using VXLAN. Perfect. Let's verify the other one as well. So let's go on to probably the other client, which is over here. Let's try this, show IP interface brief. So that's the IP on here. Let's probably get on to this guy. The other guy is show IP interface brief, and it is 20.00.15. So let me grab this one. Let's try to ping from this host. All right, there you go. The ping went through, and you can see over here as well. You can clearly see. In fact, if you just observe a couple of, let me just pull this on the other side, right? So if you see a couple of packets before, you can see there's a ARP request which has gone as well. So you see the moment I initiated the ping, you saw one of the ping dropped, right? One of the packet dropped. The reason is because that was used for doing the ARP request. So you can see even the ARP request you see is getting encapsulated inside VXLAN. So this is the ARP request, right? It goes to the leaf, and since the traffic is coming in VLAN 20, right, it is basically sending all that traffic using VNI 20, and it is sending to the VTEP peer, which is the leaf 2, right? So that's how the ARP request goes. Then you get the ARP reply back from the other side, right? And once the ARP reply is got, the leaf then is able to send the ICMP, and you can see the ICMP from source to destination is getting encapsulated inside VXLAN, and which in turn uses the UDP and outer IP header, right? So cool. So that's a very quick video on how you can set up or how you can use static VXLAN, right, using Aruba CX. So that's the configurations for setting up static VXLAN. All right. So okay, I'll end it here, and we'll probably meet again soon for more videos on data center. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Have a good one. Bye.